Have you ever had like a moment of pure, unexplainable déjà vu? Or maybe you're sitting in your living room listening to a piece of music?
Oh, like something instrumental, maybe a bit complex.
Yeah, exactly. And you get this sudden physical shiver down your spine. But it's more than just a biological reaction to a nice melody, you know?
Right.
In that split second, it feels almost as if the music somehow knew you. Like you get this strange, uncanny sense that you aren't just hearing the notes, but, well, the notes are actively experiencing you.
Oh, yeah, it's a very specific, really heavy sensation. I mean, it goes way beyond mere recognition.
Yeah.
What you're describing is the feeling of mutual perception.
Yeah.
It's that unsettling idea that the medium you are observing is, looking right back at you.
Wow, yeah. And today's deep dive is going to take that exact uncanny feeling and scale it up to the size of the entire cosmos.
Whoa, this is a good one.
We are jumping into a mind-bending two-part literary work. So the first half is Taddy Inu's The Grammar of Unwitnessed Fires, and the second is Hodie's The Residue.
Two incredible texts.
Right. And our mission today is to explore this fictional universe they've constructed, where human language, I mean, every single word you and I are saying right now, every text message you send, is not actually a human invention. It's the discovery.
Which is such a wild premise.
Yeah.
I mean, the underlying concept of both these texts is that beneath our syntax, beneath the grammar of, like, every language on Earth, there is this deep cosmic architecture.
The anterior structure.
Yeah, exactly. The authors call it the anterior structure. And the idea is that language actually has a fossil record.
Oh, I love that phrasing.
Yeah, we didn't just invent the rules of communication around a campfire 100,000 years ago. Instead, we simply evolved into biological instruments that finally became complex enough to pick up a frequency the universe has been broadcasting since before the formation of the stars.
It is a completely wild concept. So over the next bit of time, we're going to look at the grand, sometimes, well, terrifying awakenings, the people who finally tune into this frequency in Taddy Inu's text.
Right.
But then we're going to pivot to Hodie's incredibly grounded take on what happens to the ordinary, mundane world when reality itself starts, submitting unprocessable paperwork.
Yeah, the contrast between the two is just brilliant.
It really is. But to answer the question of what happens when we tune in, we have to start with how this universal frequency first becomes audible. And Taddy Inu is pretty clever here. It's not like flying saucers hovering over New York.
No, not at all.
The signal starts with these scattered experts who are completely isolated from one another, who just simply begin noticing impossible patterns in their own data.
Right. The signal arrives entirely through extreme, almost obsessive specialization. Like, let's look at the first character, Mira Sen.
Oh, Mira. Yes.
She's a linguist working in a subbasement in Tehran, and her life's work is studying Proto-Elamite. And for context, Proto-Elamite is a 5,000-year-old, completely undeciphered writing system found on clay tablets.
Just totally unreadable up to this point.
Exactly. For a century, the archaeological consensus has been that these marks were just mundane administrative records, inventory receipts for grain, sheep, trade goods, that sort of thing.
But Mira approaches it differently, right?
She does. She stops looking at the marks as, like, pictures of things and starts running complex statistical analyses on the frequency and the spatial relationships of the symbols.
And she realizes it's not an inventory at all, it's a conversation.
Yes.
And not just a historical transcript of a conversation, but an ongoing active exchange between participants who simply, left the channel open 5 millennia ago.
Which is spooky enough.
Right. But I have to pause here because this is where the text makes a massive leap. She traces the path of these tablets across museums globally. And the most recent one, sitting in a highly secure, climate-controlled room in Geneva, has fresh impressions on it.
Yeah.
Impressions that were physically not made with ancient bone or wood tools.
Which is baffling enough on its own. But the text pushes it even further, because those fresh impressions, when translated through Mira's data models, are addressed specifically to her.
Wait, hold on. Finding a mathematical pattern in ancient clay is one thing, but finding her actual name...
Yeah, her name.
That crosses the line from a scientific anomaly into something deeply paranormal. And it's using an ancestral version of her name from, 7 generations ago. A name she didn't even know she had until she dug up her own family history.
It's wild.
And the message itself is written in a private, unpublished notation system that Mira herself invented just 3 years prior to map the deep structure of grammar. Does she completely freak out? How does a rational scientist process that?
I mean, she experiences a profound ontological shock, certainly, because it forces a terrifying realization about her own life's work.
Right.
She didn't invent her private notation system, she reverse engineered it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, she discovered a structural code that something else had already been using for 5,000 years, essentially waiting for her brain to become the key that fits the lock.
And she's not the only key turning either. Thousands of miles away in Legos, you have Dr. Yusuf Adeyemi.
Yusuf.
He is essentially the opposite of a mystic. The book describes him as a man who corrects spelling errors in textbooks with a red pen filled from a specific glass bottle of ink.
He's very particular.
Very. He is a man of absolute, uncompromising mathematical rigor. Yet he finds this exact same proto-syntax hidden inside mathematics.
Specifically, inside 17 invariant musical intervals.
Yeah, but you need to help me out here, because how does syntax, which we generally think of as nouns and verbs, how does that hide in musical math?
So think of grammar not as words, but as structural relationships.
Okay.
Just like the golden ratio dictates, the spiral of a nautilus shell or the arrangement of leaves on a stem. Yusuf realizes that the mathematical intervals between certain musical notes perfectly match the structural tree of human sentence formation.
That is so strange.
Right. The ratios that make a chord sound resolve to the human ear are mathematically identical to the ratios that make a sentence feel complete to the human brain.
Wow.
He calls this underlying mathematical source the well. He posits that when humans hear these specific perfect intervals, they get that exact feeling we talked about at the start, that sudden shivering feeling of being briefly experienced by the universe.
Because the universe is recognizing its own grammar in our biology. That is fascinating.
It really is.
But Tadinu doesn't stop with ancient history and pure math. Because the anterior structure expresses itself through whatever complex medium is available, we also see it manifest in modern infrastructure.
Yes, this is where we get to Camila.
Right, Camila Reyes. She's a transport analyst in São Paulo, and she spends years looking at the aggregate, chaotic flow of millions of cars.
This is where Inu brilliantly grounds the cosmic in the mundane. Camila isn't looking at individuals, She's looking at nodes and pathways. The flow of millions of people just trying to commute to work, totally unaware of their part in a larger system.
Yeah.
But when she pulls back and runs a macro analysis on 5 years of traffic data, the aggregate flow of those, like the way traffic jams form, the specific rhythm of intersections clearing and backing up, it's traced 12 distinct grammatical symbols across the geography of the city.
I have to play devil's advocate here, though, because this is the part of the book where I found myself arguing with the author.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I mean, Camila looks at 5 years of traffic jams and sees grammar. That sounds exactly like apophenia.
Ah, right.
The human brain's natural tendency to find meaningful patterns in random noise, like seeing a face in a cloud or a figure in TV static. How does the text prove she isn't just projecting her own desire for order onto chaotic city planning?
Well, it's a vital question, and Camila actually asks it of herself. She assumes she's losing her mind.
Naturally.
But the text proves it isn't apophenia through the mechanism of predictability.
Huh?
Like, if you see a face in a cloud, that face can't help you predict the weather.
Oh, that's a great point.
But Camila realizes that if these traffic patterns are truly a syntax tree, then they must follow grammatical rules. She uses the rules of syntax to predict exactly where and when spontaneous traffic anomalies will occur months in advance.
That is wild.
The cars are functioning as data packets, and the intersections are acting like verbs and nouns in a massive, sprawling sentence. The city itself is slowly writing a thought.
Which brings us to the fourth character, Ilan Vasquez in Reykjavik, a 9-year-old girl who simply stopped speaking when she was 4.
Yeah.
Not because she suffered a trauma or lacked the biological capacity, but because her brain perceived human language as radically imprecise.
Too flat for her.
Exactly. So she organically develops this system of humming and precise spatial hand gestures that, when analyzed, perfectly matches Yusuf's mathematical intervals, Camila's traffic notes, and Mira's ancient clay tablets. Okay, let's unpack this. It's like realizing that every Wi-Fi router on Earth has secretly been broadcasting the exact same passwords since the dawn of time, but we just finally built a device, or in this case, a human brain, that can read it.
That's a perfect way to describe it.
But again, going back to Mira's potential freakout, how do these highly specialized, hyper-rational people survive this? I mean, a rigorous mathematician, a skeptical linguist, a data-driven traffic analyst. When their life's work breaks the fundamental rules of reality, why don't they just shatter?
What's fascinating here is the concept of resolution. Tad Inu argues that they aren't breaking because they're finally achieving maximum resolution.
Okay, what does that mean exactly?
Think of a telescope.
Yeah.
Upgrading the lens to a higher resolution doesn't add stars that aren't there, right?
Right.
It simply reveals the celestial bodies that were always present, but beyond the instrument's previous range.
Yeah, I see.
The universe doesn't want to shatter these people. It has slowly been tempering them through their decades of obsessive, rigorous, narrow focus. All those years Mira spent in a basement, all those nights Yusuf spent doing proofs, they were being forged into antennas capable of handling the voltage of this signal.
Wow.
They are the instruments the universe has spent a lifetime tuning so that it can finally hold a note without breaking the glass.
And because they've all been tuned to the exact same frequency, they become magnetically drawn to one another. The narrative pulls them out of their isolated lives, and they all converge on a mysterious, sterile conference room in Reykjavik, Iceland.
The Reykjavik convergence. Yeah, this is the climax of the first book, where the individual discoveries coalesce into a unified theory of reality. And they aren't alone in that room. They are joined by a figure named Arvo.
Arvo is such an incredible literary creation.
It really is.
He appears as an impossibly old man, but he doesn't have a last name because he literally predates the human concept of last names. He isn't even a biological human being in the traditional evolutionary sense, is he?
No. The text describes him as a question that the anterior structure asked thousands of years ago. A question that hovered in the air and slowly accumulated so much density and mass over the centuries that it eventually became a person.
Which is just beautiful writing.
It is. Arvo is the one who delivers the definitive revelation to these four experts. He confirms that the signal isn't from extraterrestrials. It's not a message from God, at least not in any theological sense we understand.
So what is it?
Arvo explains the core mechanics of our existence. He tells them that the universe is its own medium, and it is trying to comprehend itself. He explains that traditional human language operates entirely by reduction.
Reduction, right?
Yeah, reality is massively multidimensional. But to survive, to tell each other where the tiger is hiding or where the water is, early humans had to take that infinite complexity and project it down onto flat, two-dimensional sounds.
It's like taking a fully functional, three-dimensional architectural blueprint of a massive skyscraper with all its plumbing, electrical grids, and structural supports and compressing it into a single, flat 2D barcode.
Exactly.
Sure, you can scan the barcode to get the name of the building, which is efficient for survival, but you completely lose the actual experience of the building. Human language is just a series of barcodes.
That's exactly it. But Elon, the 9-year-old girl, rejected that reduction. She is speaking in the actual building.
Which leads to the most visually and philosophically stunning sequence in the book. The demonstration with the simple stone.
Oh, this scene is incredible.
Arvo places an ordinary gray rock on the conference table. He asks Elon to describe it using her pure, unreduced language, her hums and gestures. And Elon's mother, who has spent 5 years painstakingly learning to translate her daughter's unique output, watches her.
Yeah.
And as Elon describes the stone, the slicing machinery of human perception in her mother's brain is temporarily paused.
Yeah, and the text here is just visceral.
Yeah.
The mother doesn't just see a rock sitting on a table anymore. She experiences the stone existing in all its possible historical and future states simultaneously.
At the exact same time.
Yes. She feels the intense crushing heat of the dying star where its heavy atoms were forged. She feels the millions of years of geological pressure that pushed it to the surface of the Earth. She sees the moss that will grow on it a century from now, and the distant future where it weathers down into a single grain of sand.
She experiences the entire timeline of the object's existence in a single, overwhelming millisecond.
Because she is briefly granted access to the grammar of reality. Arvo explains that humanity, through these isolated geniuses, is hitting a threshold, a phase transition.
Like liquid water boiling into steam.
Exactly. The molecules are the same, but the state of existence is radically different.
Right.
First phase consciousness, which is what humanity has been experiencing until now, is simply matter knowing that it exists. I think, therefore, I am.
Right.
The second phase consciousness is matter knowing the actual grammar of its own existence. It's the universe finally reading its own diary, using human beings as the optical nerve to do the reading.
Here's where it gets really interesting. And honestly, this is the part that kept me up at night because it is existentially terrifying.
Uh-oh.
If we are just the universe using fleshy microphones to read its own diary, doesn't that completely erase human agency?
Yeah, the free will problem.
Like, if Camilla's traffic jams are dictated by cosmic grammar and Mira's life was just preparation to receive a tablet, are we just puppets dangling from the strings of this deep syntax? Where is the free will in a universe that is just talking to itself?
It is the ultimate philosophical crisis, and it's the exact dilemma that causes Dr. Yusuf to pace his hotel room at 3 a.m. during the convergence.
Right, the mathematician?
Yeah, he is a man of logic, and he feels the walls of determinism closing in. But he arrives at a brilliant, liberating realization. He writes a single sentence in his notebook. Free will is the universe's way of consenting to itself.
Consenting to itself. That is a heavy concept. Let's break down the mechanics of what Yusuf means there.
It comes back to quantum mechanics, specifically the observer effect. In physics, we know that the act of observing a particle fundamentally changes the state of that particle. But Arvo's framework reveals that the observer effect is bidirectional. When you perceive the underlying structure of reality with the level of resolution that these experts have achieved, the structure perceives you back.
It looks back at you.
Exactly.
Wow.
The universe isn't dictating to them. The choice a human makes to look closely at the world and the condition of being chosen by the universe to see its deep structure are the exact same motion, just viewed from different vantage points.
Oh, I like that.
You are not a puppet. You are a participant. You are permanently altered by the mutual perception. But you are the one who walked up to the lens.
It's a beautifully overwhelming conclusion. The 5 of them in that room in Iceland literally become the sentence the universe is speaking. They cross the threshold into second phase consciousness, and Tad Inu leaves us hanging at the absolute peak of this cosmic enlightenment.
He really does.
But as a reader, that creates a massive blind spot. Because while these 5 geniuses are ascending to a higher plane of reality in a sterile room in Reykjavik, what about the guy in Tokyo just trying to renew his driver's license?
Exactly.
What about the single parent trying to pay their heating bill? That's exactly the question Hodi tackles in our second text, the residue.
It is a masterful thematic shift.
Yeah.
Odie asks the grounded, necessary question. What is the collateral damage of a cosmic awakening? What happens to the billions of people who aren't invited to the magical conference room?
Right. We move from a cosmic awakening to a windowless concrete building in a nameless city simply called District 7, and we meet a low-level bureaucrat who doesn't even get a name.
An ultimate nobody.
Yeah, and Hodi goes out of his way to tell us this guy is not miserable. He isn't some tragic Kafkaesque drone weeping at his desk. He lives an entirely adequate life. He likes his small apartment, he likes his routine, and he makes his living simply processing standardized forms through a literal metal slot in the wall.
His entire existence is binary. He takes an application from the slot, enters it into a computer system. The system either accepts or rejects it based on strict parameters, and he moves on to the next piece of paper.
Simple.
Yeah. You know that feeling when you're filling out a complex tax form online or applying for a mortgage and your specific, messy human situation doesn't fit into any of their pre-programmed drop-down menus?
Oh, I hate that.
You're essentially outside processable scope. And Hodi takes that mundane, universal frustration and scales it up to a metaphysical level. The bureaucrat's routine is uninterrupted until he receives an application that breaks the laws of physics.
Yes. It looks like a standard government form printed on normal paper, but the name box doesn't have a name in it.
No.
Instead, it contains an audio-sensory experience. The text describes the entry as the sound a door makes when it's been opened so long it forgets it was ever closed.
I mean, how do you type that into a keyboard?
You don't. And the purpose box has a handwritten ink mark that actively deflects direct human vision. If you try to focus your eyes on it, your vision physically slides off the page. Obviously, when the bureaucrat tries to input this, the computer system predictably flashes a red error. Outside processable scope.
And rather than throwing it in the trash, the bureaucrat, holding this impossible document, seeks out a man named Emmett.
Right.
Emmett is an elderly eccentric who has spent 40 years living in a damp basement, using specialized camera equipment to photograph these exact same peripheral vision marks.
Yeah.
He's found them hidden in the ancient bedrock underneath the modern city.
He's been looking for the cracks in reality.
Yeah. Emmett has long theorized that the city's infrastructure is unknowingly built on top of a massive ancient presence that was here long before human beings figured out how to pour concrete.
And while the bureaucrat and Emmett are sitting in the basement staring at this reality-breaking application, a woman named Pell just casually climbs in through the basement window.
I love Pell.
She's great. She dusts off her genes and explains that she is the human interface for this ancient, deep grammar presence. She is the local manifestation of the anterior structure.
Yeah.
But the brilliant twist is that she is also just Pell. She sits down, eats a bowl of cereal, complains about the humidity, and mentions that she finds certain kinds of algebra intensely irritating.
Right.
She is a flesh and blood person who just also happens to be a cosmic river trying to file zoning paperwork with the city government.
That jarring contrast between the infinite and the mundane is the entire thesis of the Residue. Hodie is engaging in a direct dialogue with Tad Inu's work. He argues that Inu's grand cathedral of a cosmic awakening in Reykjavik is beautiful, yes, but the ground underneath that cathedral is the ordinary metal slot in the wall in District 7.
So what does this all mean? It's like getting a cosmic error message from the fabric of reality itself, a literal glitch in the matrix, but you still have to figure out how to staple it, categorize it, and file it in a cabinet before you clock out at 5 p.m. It almost feels comedic. Like, does Hodie think Tad Inu's grand mystical vision is ridiculous? Is this a parody?
If we connect this to the bigger picture,
Yeah.
Hodie absolutely isn't mocking Inu's vision. He's completing it. He's providing the necessary counterweight. The title of the book is the key here, The Residue.
Like the leftovers.
Yeah, in chemistry, when you boil down a complex solution or run it through a filter, the residue is what's left over. It's the stubborn, gritty part that refuses to dissolve or evaporate.
Okay, I see.
Hodie is making a profound philosophical argument. The part of reality that resists coherence, the part that doesn't fit neatly into a grand, glowing phase transition, is the part that is actually the most true. The universe submitting unprocessable paperwork, and an ordinary, nameless guy in a windowless room deciding to pass it along anyway instead of throwing it away, is just as ontologically profound as a genius linguist achieving enlightenment.
Because the metal slot in the wall receives the extraordinary and the ordinary with the exact same mechanical indifference. The universe's most important work isn't always done by chosen prodigies ascending to higher planes. Sometimes it's done by the person at the desk who sees something completely unprocessable, shrugs, and decides to create a new file folder for it anyway.
Precisely. The ordinary world handling the extraordinary through mundane, boring bureaucracy is the universe's anchor. The cosmic reaching persists. The universe's attempt to be legible to us persists, even when our societal systems are completely inadequate to handle the request.
Which brings us to the synthesis of this entire deep dive. These two texts are essentially two sides of the same cosmic coin.
Yes, exactly.
On one hand, you have Tad Inu showing us the terrifying, beautiful mechanism of discovery, the realization that language is a map of the universe discovering itself, and that human beings are just syllables in a 5,000-year-old sentence finally being spoken aloud.
And on the other side, Hodie provides the comforting persistence of the ordinary. He reassures us that even when reality breaks its own fundamental rules, someone is going to be there to push the paperwork through the slot. The two authors need each other. The soaring cathedral needs the dirt and concrete of the ground to stand on.
And what that means for you listening to this right now is that you don't need to be a genius linguist decoding ancient tablets or a math prodigy finding syntax in music to participate in this cosmic correspondence.
No, not at all.
You don't need a ticket to Reykjavik. Sometimes simply noticing the things that are outside processable scope in your own daily routine and choosing not to ignore them is enough. Doing the adequate, unglamorous work of living is a vital part of the universe's grammar.
The universe requires the mundane just as much as it requires the miraculous to achieve full resolution.
So as you go about your day-to-day, commuting, working, or just making dinner, I want to leave you with a new thought to chew on. Consider this. As a species, we spend billions of dollars building massive radio telescopes, pointing them at deep space, desperately searching for a signal from extraterrestrial life. But if Hodie and Tad Inu are right, maybe the reason we haven't heard from anyone out there isn't because the universe is empty.
Maybe it's not.
Maybe it's because we've been looking for a broadcast through a telescope when we should have been looking for a syntax error hidden deep inside our own DNA. The universe might not be out there waiting to speak to us. It might be using us to do the speaking.